All right. It is 1 p.m. Eastern US time, so it's time for us to get back into the Magician's Workshop by choice of games. Here we are at the stats page. I'll just get us up and running again and can go over stats just so that we know where we are in the story and what decisions we need to make in the future. So, yes, this is very much a choose your own adventure game slash story. And we are currently set in 1512 Renaissance Italy, specifically the city of Florence. We are an apprentice in a workshop, and according to the last two chapters, our master of the workshop has mysteriously died. We do not know if it's murder or accidental, but he is dead, and we are mourning. We also have learned some very terrible things. He kept many secrets. Secrets he should not have kept because we have secret commissions that we did not know we need to work on, and they're not done. We had no idea they needed to be done. Oh dear. Oh no. Plus, we have some sort of supernatural shadow thing popping up randomly, giving us notes, freaking us out. Oh dear. So, where we currently stand is that we have a health that's a little over 50%, which is not bad. Could be higher, but we're not in terrible health. Our workshop morale is pretty getting there. It could be higher, but it's not bad right now. We have 2 lira to our name at the moment. And our workshop is currently running low on supplies, which will be problematic in the future. The fresco that we have already been contracted to do, that we need to work on, we will start at the beginning of chapter 3, but it has not been even begun. Go, magically speaking, we are the worst at alchemy. Not so terribly that we will mess up everything, but not so great that we will manage anything of use. Our animation is actually getting to be pretty solid. We're not over 60% yet, but we do more than just dabble in animation. And our soothsaying is a very healthy 67%. We're not a master at soothsaying, much like our mother is, but we make her proud regardless. We are pretty reasoned. We're getting to become a reasoned person. Our artistry is just average, meh. But we're not very dexterous, not horrifically undexterous, but a little bit clumsy. And our confidence is just not there. We are not a confident person. However, we will lie our ass off. We almost will solidly lie our ass off, but we will definitely lie. We also are pretty strong. We're a strong person. We're a strong liar. That's what we are, with a little bit of reasoning to back it up. Yeah, you would think so, but apparently we can just animation our way into making it look nice or something. As for our traits, we are becoming a bit adaptable. We are quite eccentric. I mean, we're an artist. What do you expect? We're neither bold nor cautious, but we haven't decided what we are there. As we have the goodwill of human beings in our midst, and we're also quite humanism. We have decided faith can take a hike. We're also a little bit democratic. We like to get people in on the vote. As for our relationships, Piero is starting to become our friend. Fiametta, not so much. This is, but I mean, it used to be worse. Andrea is a little upset with us because we did not decide to become an animator. Um, Stella, our mother, is actually pretty okay with us. She's quite fond of us. We hope to make her even prouder. Giovanni de Medici is neutral about us. We did some good work. He paid us. He paid us in an alum. It's fine. Niccolo Machiavelli, on the other hand, is a little bit fond. We hope that he will become fonder of us in time. Dangerous Clement. Um, she is a dangerous woman. We do not want to piss her off. Gulia, our best bestie that we've known for forever, is a little bit unhappy with us because reasons. I don't remember what reasons, but reasons. We're still besties, but we have some things to work out. Alfonsini Orsini is a little bit fond of us. We managed to impress her on the road. And Henrique of the Congo, similarly fond. There will be more. This is not the end of it. We've also gotten a little bit of respect of the people of Florence, the people of Firenze. Thankfully, making the people unhappy is never a good idea. Not ever. So that is where we stand as we begin chapter 3, the fresco. Um, Here we go, everyone. You wake in your own bedroom to the murmur of argumentative voices, voices that are making some effort to stay low, but not a great deal of effort. Fiametta's voice, a constant sardonic growl, and Piero's, I can speak and I can read, I promise, guys. Melodious but slightly ironic in its own way. Flat, detached, as though his thoughts are always just a little distracted from whatever conversation is having. You keep your eyes shut for one more merciful moment, despite the fact that you can feel the morning sunlight on your face. We don't need to follow the master's plan policies, Fiametta is saying. Our clients will understand that we have to make a fresh start. A fresh start means the three of us on the road with a rickety cart and a tray full of quackeries, Piero says. We are nothing without the master's relationships. We can't afford. Principia, for God's sake, we can see you're awake. Get out of bed and. You open one eyelid and peer out at the room. Fiametta is pacing by the window. Piero leans, arms crossed, against your enchanted chest of drawers. I'm going to have to enchant new locks for this place, you grumble. Come on, Principia, Fiametta says. The master always assigns the team leaders the weekly meetings, so this afternoon the apprentices will be wondering who's leading their team that week. Without the master, we need to decide. Well, how we'll decide. And we can't lose any time this morning. She looks at you pointedly, and you know what she's thinking. Once Piero leaves the two of you alone, you and Fiametta have to go see your mother about that mysterious note you deciphered. The three of you have spent so many days and nights working together that it isn't unusual for you to wake up in their presence. Still, you're usually wearing a little more than your chemise under a blanket. It has the effect of making you consider your reactions. Fiametta and Piero are both your comrades and your rivals. Any feelings other than friendship could factor into your decision in the next few days. You've already figured out that you're attracted to Fiametta, but what about Piero? So, are we attracted to both? Are we only attracted to Fiametta? Or have we changed our mind and we're no longer attracted to either of them? One, two, or three. Both Fiametta or neither. What does chat think in this moment? Trav starts the vote off with 2. Nah, just her. We know we're eccentric, but we can't go for everyone. Think of how much trouble that'd be. We never have a moment to ourselves. That's for sure. All right. We are only attracted to Fiametta. Fiametta is constantly in motion, her expression always changing, and it's difficult to take your eyes off her. Any time now, sleepyhead, Piero says. All right, turn away. I'm dressing. As you roll out of bed, the city bells ring out to greet the dawn. A half dozen deep tolls, and then a lighter, brighter cacophony, like the twittering of birds. But this is the city, not the countryside, and most of the birds are pigeons and swallows. And instead of the sounds of nature, you hear the roll of cartwheels, the clop of horses, the peal of children laughing, the shouts of stall keepers preparing for their day. What are your pronouns for the moment? We were warned at the beginning that we would have the ability to change this as we go. So are we still they them? Or have we decided to be more he or she today? So he, she, they, 1, 2, or 3. You guys tell me. What are we feeling at this moment? Trav says to let's stick with three, and I agree. They, them has served us well. Do you choose more masculine or feminine clothing today? Now, last time we went feminine. Um, Offset that perhaps with more masculine today. Or we could go with neither in particular. So it's neither masculine or feminine, one, two, or three. I'll take numbers or keywords, whichever chat wants to do. But yeah, I do believe that we went with feminine the last time, so it might be time to switch it up to masculine this time and do neither in particular next time. Assuming there is a next time, I believe there's. Chat, what do you think? Let's try two. All right, masculine it is today. We're gonna be a little boy today. You dress quickly in a black doublet, codpiece, and hose. So we have to assign the teams of apprentices at the meeting, you say. Easy enough. We'll do as we always did, even under the master. Each of us will lead one team. Yes, but how will we decide who gets which team this week? Piero says. I can make a list up this morning. Fiametta shakes her head. I'm not having you choose my team for me, thank you very much. We'll choose at the meeting, you say, putting up a hand to silence them. You don't have time for them to argue this morning. So, we'll let the apprentices decide they should share in the decision making, which I believe is the democracy option. We'll take turns and each select our teams as leaders. We must take charge now, which I actually think is the order option. We'll let chance decide. Patterns often emerge from chaos in interesting ways, which I think is the eccentric option. And then we'll let chance decide. May the divine will guide us, which is the faith option. So maybe three is the humanism option. I don't know. It's hard to say. Trav says three all the way, but we should let chance decide. Patterns often emerge from chaos in interesting ways, which actually might be the eccentric option, although why they have eccentric and faith, I do not know. Very strange. But we do like humanism too. Yes, yes. So that might be the humanism option after all. It's hard to say. I'm usually pretty good at picking out which stats go to which options, but not always. Sometimes they're a little vague. We will try this one. This is a decision we did not make last time. I believe we did the taking our teams or something last time. Anyway. All right, that's settled, Piero says. If you're happy with that, Fiametta. She nods and crosses her arms. Fine. They bid you farewell, and you hear them both go downstairs. After a few minutes, Fiametta comes back just as you're locking the door. We can go now, Fiametta says breathlessly. He has gone off to a job. The two of you scurry down the stairs past the entry to the workshop, where Andrea is talking with some of the apprentices. Principia, will we continue the fresco today? Andrea calls, as you smile and trot past. Yes, of course. Meet me there at Terzi, you say. The Terzi bell's ringing at the beginning of the working day, so that doesn't give you much time, but your mother's house isn't that far. The sign of the hanged man. Hey, Count. Nice to have you. Welcome in. Welcome in. And welcome to lurking. I hope your Minecrafting goes well. Good luck with your designs and your mods and stuff. Everything crumbles into dust eventually, even magic. But animated items tend to last a long time because the magic in them literally gives them new life. That's why wealthy families call on animators to freshen up their old furnishings. The story goes that the first flying carpet wasn't meant to leave the ground at all, merely a brush up animation of worn silk fibers that went out of control. So it is that the hanged man in front of your mother's ramshackle house, just outside the city walls, looks exactly as it has your entire life. The yellow hose have not worn out at all, not even the tops of the apparatus, where the wooden knee within rubs against the wooden beam jutting the gable. Suspended from one bent leg, the man might have lost a little of his stuffing to gravity over the years. In fact, you see some straw scattered on the cobbles. But his painted face and red tunic are as bright as ever, and with one wooden hand he still beckons travelers within. The hanged man is a familiar symbol to anyone who might be looking for a soothsayer. since many street soothsayers have little talent or training and use cards. Stella does too, sometimes, although she doesn't need to. For some skittish clients, it reduces the discomfort of having one's own thoughts laid bare. A potential client doesn't need to know how to read to know that here, in this house, lives a soothsayer. But of course, Stella doesn't turn up her nose at more educated and wealthy clients either. The soothsayer's den. You raise your fist to knock on the door, but it opens before you can, and you stumble into your mother, who quickly shuts the door behind her. Your mother is a tall, willowy woman whose gray hair flows over her shoulders, giving her a witch like appearance that is not accidental. It irritated you when you were younger. But now, have we grown fond of adopting an eccentric manner ourselves? Have we worked hard to understand her way of seeing the world? Do we see that the world is a hard place that forces people into deception? Are we still irritated, but we need to fit into society, not stand out? Or are we still irritated because if we want magic to be respected, we can't act like eccentric charlatans? So, one is the eccentric option. Two, I think, is the reason option. Three is the guile option. Four is the uh I've lost the word. Order option, I think, and the other one uh is the charm option, I think. I think we did number five here. But one, two, three, four, or five, eccentric, reason, guile, um, etc. Trav says one because we like being eccentric and we are quite eccentric. Or maybe three if our eccentric is really high. They're both good. Okay, well, our guile could be better, but our eccentric is already like super good. So perhaps we should go with three, Trav. One also might be a bold caution thing. I'm sorry. Four and five might also be boldness and caution. Not entirely certain. So I think we'll go with three and see how that works. I see that the world is a hard place that forces people into deception. Stella does not ask you whether you're well, as you imagine an ordinary mother might. Instead, she peers at you, her black eyes seeing right through you. You need something. Can we talk inside? You ask. It's a private matter. Stella looks at Fiammetta. Fiammetta is a friend. You can trust her. I wonder. Stella glares at Fiammetta. I suppose you'd better come in, she says at last, strangely reluctant to let you into the house. Stella's house. The familiar musty you while your eyes adjust to the shapes in the shadows. The crystal ball, the mounds of cushions and rugs, the embroidery faded and frayed. The curtains have never been opened so long as you can remember. Stella's clients tend to be nervous about privacy. We'll need a little light for this task, Fiammetta says, and she cups her hand around the lamp on the table, bringing a warm glow to the room with one of the first tricks the master teaches his students, a combination of animation and alchemy. You pull the note out of your purse and hand it to Stella. Can you make any sense of this? She holds it to the light, frowning. Well, this is interesting. This is interesting indeed. Where did you get this, Principia? Will you keep the existence of the man in the shadows a secret? Perhaps if more people know about him, you'll be less vulnerable to any evil he might have planned. But it might be worth keeping your relationship secret if he offers you some personal advantage. It's never easy to lie to your mother without her realizing, and she won't like it if you do. Will she believe that you're simply being cautious if you keep your secret, and that it has nothing to do with your trust in her? If you tell her you're being followed by a mysterious figure, she'll appreciate the gesture of trust, but she might interfere and endanger herself. She's not the only one you'd be telling. The more information you share with Fiammetta, the closer you'll be working with her, and the more your fates will be entwined. So, do we just tell all and say, I received the note from a silent figure in a broad hat who keeps to the shadows? Do we decide to speak only half of it? I think it's prudent not to speak about that for now. Or do we just not talk? I found it in the street. Winter Fairy, welcome in, welcome in. You can weigh in on this decision as well. So, one, two, or three? Tell all, tell half, tell nothing. What are we doing? Trav has already started the vote with one. Tell all. What does Winterfairy think? Should we tell Mom about the Monocielo? Mom and Fiametta, I might add. We did not bring Piero this run. We have decided Piero is the enemy because we're in love with Fiametta. Ah, Winterfairy agrees. Tell Mom all. Okie dokie then. I received a note from a silent figure in a broad hat who keeps to the shadows. Stella's eyes widen and she steps in close. Fiametta throws up her hands. What? And I'm only hearing this now? Stella leans in close, hisses in your ear. Have you ever heard of the Monocielo? You shake your head, and so does Fiametta. Stella grunts. You young people, you don't know anything. The Monocielo is not a man, although he looks like a gentleman in a broad-brimmed hat. Ah, yes, this sounds familiar. He's a creature of secrets, so he travels in dark places, tunnels, shadows, a very dangerous being. He's usually found in Naples, though. That's very odd that he should be here. I wonder if he left when the French invaded Naples. Animals leave besieged cities, you know, and so do fairies and demons and other things. She holds up the note. Gifts from the Monocielo could be dangerous. Can you tell me what it says? You speak more loudly now, bringing Fiametta back into the conversation. She shakes her head. Divination of codes and alphabets is not my area. Never was. For that, you'll need someone like Judah Leon Abravino. I don't know the name, Fiametta says. One of the best scholars and best soothsayers I've ever known. Lives in Venice most of the time, but he's here for the reinstatement of the Medici. He's staying with a cousin near the Piazza del Carmine. If anyone can tell you what this means. What is it? You've stopped listening. You're staring at the wall behind your mother where letters are appearing in dripping red, as if written by an unseen finger. The writing on the wall, quite literally. The writing stops, leaving a single word. Fiametta has her knife in her hand and is rustling through the corners of the room, looking for an intruder. You look into every shadow and start trying to divine whether there's an intruder here. Stella puts up a hand. There's no need to start a manhunt, it's just a message. There's no one here but us. Despite her reassurance, her voice sounds shaky and her eyes have a haunted look that you've never seen there before. A message from whom, Mother? What is this about? She shakes her head. Nothing for you to worry about. You have enough to occupy you. Go on now. Surely the workshop will be missing you both. If you bring the note to Abravanel, give him my best. Now, what can I give you? She goes on. I'm fresh back from the alchemists, and I have some potions here. Will you have a restorative tonic? Good for the health and makes you strong. Or perhaps you'd like a potion of inspiration to increase the sureness of your hand and the creativity of your eye? Then there's the potion of swagger to give you confidence and the ability to deceive. So, do we drink from the potion of swagger and up confidence and guile? Do we drink from the restorative tonic and just up our health, period? Or do we drink from the potion of inspiration to up our artistry and our dexterity, which might be useful in dealing with the fresco, which we need to work on in this chapter? Although, Winterfairy says restorative tonic to up our health. She's very adamant about it. What does the rest of chat think? Now she's second guessing herself. So, once more, one, two, or three. Swagger, restorative, inspiration. As a note, swagger will up our confidence and our guile. Restorative tonic will only do health and strength. And the potion of inspiration will do dexterity and artistry. Dexterity and artistry are possibly quite necessary for what we have going on immediately. But we kind of have gone in on the strength, and our health is not fantastic, but it could be better. Trav votes 2 as well. Health and strength sound good. With good health, we wouldn't need to eat as much. A saving grace. All right, everyone has decided we will drink from the restorative tonic. Done. Stella passes you an earthenware jar. The liquid within looks rather like mud and smells rather like compost. You take a tentative sip and you don't throw it back up again, so you take another. There, she says soothingly. Good. You walk out, blinking in the sunshine. Something crashes to the ground beside you and you spring back. It's a shattered terracotta roof tile right on the threshold to your mother's house. Fiametta? Did it cut you? No, it just startled me. A place for a roof tile to fall. You look up at the roof. If your mother's house is in disrepair, it could be unsafe. But no, it looks fine. All the reddish gold tiles are lying flat. They even look fairly new. There's a rapid knocking sound, like a giant clicking his tongue, and a dozen tiles fly up off the edge of the roof and hang in midair. They turn so that the short side of the curved rectangles face you. They angle downward, as if some invisible force is preparing to pitch them at you. Run! You yell, taking off after yourself. Your mother should be safest inside. This is no mere disrepair. It's magic, and it's malicious. It soon becomes obvious that you can't outrun the tiles. They're ahead of you already. You stop, panting at a small stone wall. Narrow alleyways radiate out from this nameless little piazza, and in the alleyways, people creep forward, watching. Some look concerned, and some look amused. The tiles form a circle around you, joining end to end. You break the circle with a blow of your arm, but the tiles themselves don't break. They turn parallel to the ground, turning their edges towards you. One flies at your throat, and you manage to catch it there. It quivers in your hand, the gritty edge just brushing your neck, your fingers gripping hard. Fiametta throws herself at the tiles, yelling like a demon. She can't tell whether you can't tell whether she's planning on using magic or the flat of her hand, or both. Then you see that she's actually running straight through the formation and on down the street. She's drawing them off. Four tiles follow her, but the others shudder and stay where they are, and the one at your throat doesn't budge. Another tile turns flat in the air, and you think for a moment that it's aiming at you, until you realize that the remaining tiles are stacking under it. They're about to mount some new attack. You'll have to think of some way out of this, or you'll get hurt. We make a really good bouncer. We can see trouble coming and throw them out. Not quite so hot as an artist, though. Yeah, no, I understand. So, our choices are if we can put an animation spell on the tiles, we might be able to shatter them. We do have some animation. If we can lead the tiles to the well and dodge out of the way quickly, they'll fall in. That's the dexterity play. Or we can just our way through it and smash them one by one, which is the strength play. So, animation, dexterity, or strength. Um, do note, we have far more than dexterity or animation. Even double check that. Animation, 58. Strength, 63. Dexterity, 45. So, animation, dexterity, or strength. Chat, what do you think we should do in this one? Winterfairy says 1. Trav says 3. You guys are leaving it up to me? You're leaving it up to me? We all know I guilt trip you guys when you do that. And Count is Minecrafting, so he's not going to vote. Oh, Travis flippy flopped, of which I never expect you guys to flippy flop, and then you flippy flop in droves. That maybe if we can get some practice in, it could be worse. You know, you're right. This could be. I don't know if this will up our animation or if this is simply a pass fail state, depending on how high our skill is. But our skill is actually not terrible, so we could attempt the animation and hope that it works, and hopefully hurt ourselves less. Yeah, we did get a health boost. Our health, well, actually, I don't think it did much for our health. We're just gonna try animate it and see what happens. An object can only hold an animation spell from one magician at a time. It's common to hear animators mutter quick soothsaying spells before every animation they perform, just to make sure that whatever they're about to enchant isn't already under someone else's influence. Double animating an object can make the spells go awry in unpredictable ways. And if the spells are strong enough, they can even destroy the object as it tries to obey the commands of two magicians at once. That's what you'll need to do on purpose for once. Your spell will have to be stronger than the original magician's. You concentrate hard on the tile in your hand, willing it to fall inert to the ground. It doesn't obey you, but you can feel the strain pulling at the clay, and then bang, it shatters. Spraying clay into your nose and eyes. You cough and wipe your face, but at least you have both hands free to wipe it and you're not hurt. A tile is flying at you, but now you have a feel for this material. You point your hand, and one after another, the tiles explode in the air. Orange powder covers the cobbles. The people in the alleys applaud. Fiametta comes up. Principia! Stella yells from the door of her house. Have they hurt you? I'm fine, you say, and Fiametta is unhurt too. I'll kill them, Stella mutters. This is not fair. You aren't even a customer, although I suppose the tiles couldn't know that. Who? Who is doing this to you, threatening and hurting your customers? Stella comes closer, a finger to her lips. Shh, not here. This is not your concern, Principia. You're my mother. Indeed, and as your mother, I ask you to let this rest. You can't help, and you can make it worse. If I have to worry about you on top of everything. She stops. Please, go see a Bravo. Do the work you have to do. I'll be fine. They won't attack me. They want me alive. You look at Fiametta, who looks as disinclined to let this go as you are. So, are we more determined than ever to stand our ground against someone who'd hurt me or hurt us or our family, which I believe is the stubborn option? Are we sick of being cautious, which is the bold option, or it's too dangerous to stick out in Florence these days? We need to charm the powerful, which is the charm option. You can hear that the dog, Dixie, downstairs has decided that there's someone at the door. So please excuse her excitement on that in the background. So as you can see, we are more adaptable than stubborn. We are more eccentric than charming, but bold or cautious, we are pretty neutral on. So if we decide to take the bold option, that's probably our best bet in this particular scenario. So 1, 2, or 3. Um, Stubborn, bold, or charming. We're going bold. Winterferia said, go bold, because we are sick of being cautious. Does Trav agree? That is the question. Or anyone else in chat who wants to join us. Yeah. I actually think that this is more a building of one or the other, but it could also be a pass fail state. It's just that not being cautious is the only thing that we're good at. So we're sick of being cautious. Your blood is up. This is a time for being bold. You can protect your mother from harm, even in Florence in this year of uncertainty. But the workshop needs you today, and your first task is to get this note deciphered before you have to meet Andrea at the fresco. And you know your mother well enough to know that no one, not even another soothsayer, can pry a secret from her if she's determined to keep it. I'm expected soon on the other side of the river, you say to Sella. Will you be all right here alone? Pfft. Nobody dares to really do anything to harm me. They're cowards. Who, mother? Who's after you? That's my business. Go, take care of yours. If you want to see Dr. Abravanel and still make it back across the Arno before Tercy, you'll have to hurry. All right, soothsayer. Send me a message if you need me, and I'll be here. You and Fiametta leave Stella's house, silent and thoughtful. The Piazza del Carmine is, like your mother's house, outside the city walls. It's on the way back to the workshop, so you ask a shopkeeper for the right house and knock on the door. It's opened by a person carved out of wood, its face an entirely featureless, gleaming orb of you. It startles you, takes the words right out of your mouth. Yes, snaps the automaton, or at least the creaking voice seems to come from its general location, despite the absence of a mouth or even anything like a face. Your master never used animation to make self-servants. He said it was a waste of the animator's energies. Sometimes, on late nights, he'd tell dark stories about sorcerers who fell to the mercy of their creations. But Abravanel, or the homeowner, seems to have no such qualms. When you admit you have no appointment, the impassive servant starts to close the door. If this takes too long, you'll be late to meet Andrea, and they don't like to be kept waiting. Do we use our strength to keep the door open long enough to trick the automaton into letting us in? Are we stubborn enough to stay on the threshold and charming enough to make my case from here, which is what we tried last time and didn't have the stats to pull it off with, so it failed ridiculously? Or are we bold and confident enough to just barge past the automaton? Well, we only have a little bit of boldness and we do not have the confidence, but we do have strength. So, one, two, or three: strength, stubborn, bold. What do we do, chat? What do we do? Trav starts off the vote with one. And Winter Fairy agrees, which means the ones have it. We will stronk our way through. The wooden arms are stronger. The door almost casually, but your muscles. The reason I don't need an appointment, you say, is that my mother and the good doctor are old friends and I have a standing invitation. Everyone needs an appointment, the automaton responds, but it hesitates. My mother, Stella de Firenze, told me. Someone inside the house calls out, "What's that? Is that Stella's child? Come in, come in." The animation steps back slowly and lets the door fall open. Judah Leon Abravanel is perhaps 50 years old, or close to it, but he's a strong and vigorous man with a ruddy, pleasant face. He has a very scholarly beard and an even more scholarly hat, and he's wearing dark robes. Forgive the demeanor of my servant, he says. My former partner gave her to me, thinking she would be useful on Shadow. Of course, that is quite forbidden. He didn't know, and the spirit of the gift was kind. I keep her to honor his memory, and she does keep me from being interrupted on other days of the week. The room is simple, but the furniture is beautifully carved. A stone fireplace in one corner, a few chairs, a table with a bit of bread and cheese laid on it. You've interrupted his breakfast. There is ink on his fingertips, and there is nothing about him at all to suggest any magical inclinations. You're a soothsayer like your mother, he says, looking at your face. Ah, like Stella. He doesn't frame his observations as questions. But you've sought me out nonetheless. Soothsaying is one of the things we do at the workshop, you agree, but the workshop by the Piazza di Santa Maria Novella? Abravanel interrupts. You nod, and he leans back. Ah, that is interesting. I was sorry to hear of your master's death. My mother thought you might be able to tell us what this note says. There are symbols, significance. Abravanel takes the note, brings it close to the open window, looks at it in the light. This message was hidden before you revealed it, he says. You can feel Fiammetta vibrating with impatience besides you. What does it say, Dr. Abravanel? It'll take me a little time to work it out. In the meantime, feel free to go through my book. Most of my library in Venice, of course, but there are some interesting treatises on magic that might prove useful to you. He bends over the note, and you take the opportunity to examine his books. There's a stack of about a dozen. You won't have time to study them all, so you choose a volume on. Okay, Winter Fairy, welcome back. We will welcome you back when you get back from the mail. Stay safe going to the mailbox. So we have the choice of alchemy, animation, soothsaying. We did choose alchemy last time, but we also specialized in alchemy. We could push animation past the 60% mark so that we have two good magic skills, or we could push soothsaying even higher. Or we could get alchemy up and be boring, because we've seen alchemy route to some extent. Animation has proven to be useful. Having them both over 60% would certainly help us. Or we could do the boring alchemy route and choose a different title to read. Hardly boring to be good at all magecraft. Yep, no, hardly boring. So what do we think, chat? 1, 2, or 3, alchemy, animation, or soothsaying? I will decide with your help. because that's why I have my chat to help me. Help. Trav says 2 animation. But he did mention yesterday that there is an achievement for being good in all 3 magic stats. So maybe this might be the point where we attempt to gain a little bit of alchemy and help ourselves in the future by being just basically good at everything. Hmm. Hmm. Alchemy or animation? Yeah. You know what? I'm going to go with alchemy. I'm sorry, Trav. I'm sure Winter Fairy would agree with you, but I'm going to go with alchemy. We have skipped a couple of opportunities, but I wanted to be at least really good in one and decently good in another. Like we actually last time we went all in on alchemy, animation was still at 50% and soothsaying never got higher than 43. This time soothsaying isn't quite as high, but our anime a lot higher. So if we also bump up alchemy through this book route, um, we will have possibly all 3 magic stats over 50%, or at the very least at 50%, which is generally good enough for dabbling things, especially when we're combining all 3 of them, which does come up later. Um, it seems as if Fiametta being the animator and our love interest currently, we're going to need to up that we have enough to get the alchemy thing done when we inevitably piss off Piero. So, um, I think this is basically the last time that we can really up this stat in any meaningful manner. So I'm gonna go for the alchemy route, even though we've been through it before, because it's essentially just we'll have to make a new title. Yeah, I'm gonna make this call. Sorry, chat. You flip open a plain volume to a title page that bears an enormous woodcut, a snake wrapped around a staff, the rod of a syphilis. Words crowd the title area above it and snake down the sides. The print is difficult to read, and the Latin is ambiguous, but you can read the title. The first word is best translated to tincture, fluscun, or alkest. We did tincture before. So do we want a base or an acid? 2. Going for a base. Philgiston. Philgiston. I don't do languages other than English, and I do English badly, so here we are. The Philgiston of Wisdom, a treatise on alchemy with certain disputations on the, I believe we went with grievous last time, so lamentable or hilarious. Which one shall we do, chat? Lamentable or hilarious? 1 or 2? 1 or 2? One, lamentable. All right, lamentable. Consequences of error to which are added the 5 perilous, unknowable, or intoxicating. I think we did unknowable last time. Yeah, I think we did unknowable. So Travis decided on 3 intoxicating, which are added the 5 intoxicating discoveries of Avicenna. You read several pages and learn a great deal in a few minutes' time. Fiametta is reading intently too. You hardly notice when Abravanel steps away from the window. He has a look on his face like a cat that's found a mouse. Were you successful, sir? Fiametta asks, nearly bouncing with impatience. As much as anyone could be with what's visible here. The note says, you will find the something in the fountain. The something? Fiametta asks. Well, it doesn't say something, of course, Abravanel says a little testily, but I can't tell you what the object is with those symbols missing. The city is full of fountains, grumbles Fiametta. I can't tell you any more unless you have another note about you. It must have something to do with the master, you muse. After all, the note came right after the master's death. You stop yourself from mentioning the Monticello. You don't know enough about that figure yet, and anyway, it doesn't feel right to go mentioning possibly mythological creatures in the home of a scholar. Then the fountain must be a place associated with the master too, says Abravanel encouragingly. Is there a fountain near the workshop? There's that little courtyard fountain, the one with the frogs, Fiametta says uncertainly. It seems you have some work ahead of you, says Abravanel. Thank you for your help, you reply. If there's ever anything I or the workshop can do for you. Now, I won't hear of that. Come and talk to me about books now and then, and I'll be a happy man. Which book were you looking at, Principia? You seemed interested in it. Philgiston of Wisdom, a treatise on alchemy with certain disputations on the lamentable consequences of error, to which are added the 5 intoxicating discoveries of Aversina. Ah, he says. Although my own translation differs a little, you must come back, and we will discuss it, and that will be thanks enough. And of course, when you complete my commission on time, I'll pay the same reward I promised your master. 3 florins if delivered by Michaelmas. That was the arrangement. The master seemed to have used Michaelmas as a deadline for all the commissions he didn't tell his assistants about. He even used it for Abravanel, who doesn't observe Christian holy days. Perhaps because the feast at the end of September is the harvest festival when the fruits of summer are ripe, an auspicious moment for projects to ripen too. You and Fiametta look at each other, wide-eyed and speechless. Another one! You had no idea that Abravanel had given the master a commission. Your commission, you say. Of course. We have so many. Remind me which was yours? He looks at you with a strange smile, and you remember that it's not easy to fool a soothsayer, but he seems amused, not angry. He turns to the window as if his thoughts are far away. I was born in Lisbon and grew up there. My father supported the wrong heir to the throne, and we left for Spain. I became the first personal physician to King Ferdinand and Queen Isabella, and it was then I began to be interested in the secrets of the mind and heart. No doctor can truly heal without understanding these. Don't you agree? How do we respond? Compassion does seem to be the root of all healing. The secrets of the mind are inseparable from those of the body. It is all one, I have no doubt of that, which is what we chose last time. And the sparks of divine in every person is the answer to all mysteries, I'm sure. I believe 1 is goodwill, 2 is reason and or order, and 3 is faith. Winter Fairy says 1, Trav says 1 as well. We are going compassionate. Welcome back, Winter Fairy. I hope there was not too much junk mail in your mail today. Junk mail tends to multiply like rabbits. How right you are. For 8 years I served the king and queen to the best of my abilities, body and soul. I considered them my friends, as much as any monarch can be friends to anyone. They were not my friends. They passed a decree exiling any Jew who would not convert to Christianity. When I refused, they set a watch to keep me in Spain. My son to Portugal in the dead of night, thinking he'd be safe there. But the king of Portugal kidnapped my little son and baptized him without my consent. His voice wavers. I tried to convince the king and queen to show them their error, but I could not. They were lost to me. I could see their thoughts, but I could not change their hearts. Neither Spain nor Portugal were safe. I was in exile once more. That was, 20 years ago now. So you came to Italy, Fiametta says. He nods. I did, first to Naples, but I left when the French invaded. Like many others, including the Monticello, you shiver thinking of the man in the shadows. Now I live in Venice, Abravanel continues, and I have devoted the last 20 years to learning the arts of rhetoric and poetry so that I can change hearts and dispel error. I am here in Florence nominally to pay my respects to the Medici family on their restoration to power, but in truth, my main object in being here is to collect something your master promised to make me. A pen that can only write truth, and an ink that can only write beauty. Do you know how far along he was on it when he died? You look at Fiametta and her face tells you this is news to her. You shake it right away. Thank you, doctor. Nice. New book. New book day, new book day. Something to celebrate. I'm sure Caleb will be ecstatic. Or at least I hope he will be. I love books. Books at his age were the best. They're still pretty darn awesome. Of course, Fiametta says, her face red. Of course the old man kept this from us, and heaven knows what else. You think the note has something to do with the master, Principia, and I think you're right. And now there's a commission we didn't know about. The two of you walk back to the Arnaud towards central Florence. The bells ring out for Terzi as you approach the Piazza di Santa Croce. You're right on time. You agree that you will be the one to check the frog fountain later, before the workshop has its daily planning meeting. But for now, Andrea is waiting for you at the fresco with two apprentices and several buckets and brushes. Piero is there too, wondering what you and Fiametta are up to, probably. With each passing hour, it seems you learn more about the master's deception. It's hard not to feel bitter and more sure than ever that no one can anyone or anything. Anxious and uncertain that any authority can be trusted, or less sure of the right course and wishing for divine guidance. So, bitter, I think, is what we chose last time. I do not recall. I think that one is humanism. Anxious and uncertain that any authority can be trusted might be misanthropy, or I have the two confused. And the last one is definitely faith. So I think we have a faith in humanism with one other, with misanthropy thrown in, I think. I think. One, two, or three, chat. Bitter, anxious, or guidance. What do we pick? Yes, the pen is the most powerful item of all the commissions, vastly more so than even the machine. It can only write truth. You can verify anything. Watch out for fortifying to write, there is a god to betray me. Yeah, no, the pen in this instance is definitely much mightier than the sword, and that specific pen much mightier than even the regular one. Truth and beauty, whew, that's a power combo if I ever heard of it. Yeah, the machine gives you random secrets, most of which are pretty petty. I mean, I'm sure it can give you more specific secrets if it was a refined machine, but yeah, the machine that we have experienced in our previous run just pulled whatever from people's minds. So, um, we should focus on the choice at hand. Winter Fairy starts off the vote with two, anxious and uncertain that any authority can be trusted. One, two, or three, bitter, anxious, or guidance. What do we do, chat? What do we do? The twos have it. We are anxious and uncertain that any authority can be trusted. I don't blame them. The master didn't respect his students enough to tell them the truth. Why work for someone who doesn't respect you? It's hard to know what to do now. The wisest course might be to keep your head down and protect yourself and your work from anyone with power. Anyway, the master's deception has left you with a practical problem. The whole workshop will have to decide soon which of the commissions to take on. You can't possibly complete them all by Michaelmas. Fiametta already knows about the commission from for Judah Leon Abravanel. Should you tell Piero and Fiametta about the commissions you've learned about from Henrique of Congo and Alfonsina Orsini and Dangerous Clement? If you keep it to yourself, you will have more control over which commissions the workshop takes on, and you can be sure to argue for the ones that match your own skill set. If you discuss the decision in advance with one or either of them, that will ensure they work closely with you. If you tell only one, be pleased that you chose them over the other, but a fully unified approach may increase workshop morale. Do we keep it to ourselves? Do we tell Fiametta? Do we tell Piero? Or do we tell them both? One, two, three, or four? Selfish, Fiametta, Piero, both. We did tell them both last time as well. Yeah, in this case, I think we should probably both tell them both. And interestingly enough, probably Andrea will end up being told as well because Andrea is here. But yeah, we do not want to woo Fiametta. We absolutely do not want to act like the master and keep secrets from her. If telling her at the very least is required. Letting Piero in on it so that he kind of understands what work there really is to do is also probably a good idea. So I'm going to go with both because that's what we've decided. You beckon Piero to come join you and Fiametta. You two look as if you had quite the morning, and it's barely tersy, he says cautiously. You look at Fiametta and back at Piero. We met with Judah Leon Abravanel, the scholar, this morning. He says the master promised him a commission of a pen and ink. Piero shakes his head. I can't believe the master would. Believe it. That's not the only commission I've learned about since his death. What? They both say in unison. Alfonsina Orsini wants a weapon. Henrique of Congo wants a flying machine, and Dangerous Clement wants a vault. They all promise to pay 3 florins, and they all want it by Michaelmas. We'll have to tell the apprentices what to work on. They both look stunned. All right, Piero says at last. Let's all think about which commissions to make our priorities. We can't do them all in time. Fiametta, for once, agrees with Piero. We'll discuss it before the workshop's planning meeting. God, what a mess. They nod their farewells to Andrea and walk pensively back towards the workshop. That was probably our best choice, to be quite frank. Are you ready, Andrea? I am. Where do you want me? The Piazza di Santa Croce is dominated on one side by the Balistica, with its high-peaked facade. The piazza itself is a vast open rectangle, and every year in the early spring, the middle of it is filled with sand to create a rectangular playing field for the game of Calcio Florentino. There are 27 players on each side, and they struggle for control of a ball. That struggle often takes the form of wrestling, biting, and on one memorable occasion, magical duel. Do you like to play the game yourself? So we have 2 yeses and 2 nos. One yes is to keep we struggle with confidence in competitive matches. The other yes is to it keeps us healthy, but we are clumsy in the field. So one is the first yes is a hit to confidence. The second yes is a hit to dexterity. One no is we don't have time to exercise. We spend that honing our mind, which is upping reasoning. And the other no is who needs exercise? We were already strong. In this point, I would say both the yeses will up our actual health. One will give us another hit to confidence, which is already almost 40%. And the other one will hit our dexterity, which is already under 50% as well. The first no will give us more reasoning. We do have a little bit, we don't have a lot. The second no will either give us strength or not. And we do already have a pretty high strength. In fact, it is our highest of the stats in that section. So we could we could up our reasoning a little bit more, or we could take some more health. Our health is at 57%. Our reasoning is at 54%. It's not very high, but our strength is already our highest stat in the skills section. We could exchange dexterity or confidence for more health. We could also up our reasoning or our strength. That is the choice. So, confidence, dexterity, reasoning, or strength. 1, 2, 3, or 4. Trav says 4. Winter Fairy says 3. We're going to need it in order to hold up a stack of apprentices or lift a cart or break something tough and so on. You're not wrong, Trav. Going all in on strength does have its uses. We know we will need it in the future. It seems to be that you either go the dexterity or the strength route, and we've kind of gone the strength route. However, we could also up our reasoning a little bit more, just so that we have two skills, one physical, one a mental, that are pretty high. I mean, we also have guile, I suppose. We don't always have the option between reasoning and guile. You guys are leaving it up to me again. Terrible idea. Please don't. It's true, they are thresholds. There's a pass fail thing. So we need them good, and we're strong but dumb. And we're strong but dumb, but insightful and cunning. Hmm. Um, Winter Fairy is flipped. We're doing strength. Who needs exercise? I was born strong as an ox. Back before the Papal army restored the Medici to de facto rule in the city, the Republic of Florence had asked the workshop to create an open air fresco in the piazza to celebrate the game. When the Medici returned, they confirmed the commission. Unlike the many frescoes in the basilica and its chapels, this will not be a religious scene, and the fact that it is open to the elements makes it an extra challenge. Although it's somewhat protected, the wall of the fresco is well inside a covered portico along one side of the piazza. The idea is that visiting dignitaries in the portico to drink wine and watch the game. Those dignitaries who don't take the field themselves, that is. It has to be an active, exciting scene, one that will impress the confraternity with your skill, and one that will endear you to the common people who have to walk past it every day. And there's one more challenge. It has to be able to move. There are two methods for making a moving fresco. First, you can mix a plaster that never quite sets all the way, that stays pliable enough that it is almost alive. That requires a great skill in alchemy and is only possible with the addition of certain ingredients, which you'd have to take from the workshop's supplies. Hourglass sand is a precious commodity in the workshop. It's fine, pale sand that has spent at least a century in a well used hourglass. Every time someone turns the hourglass, a little of the person's life spirit goes into the sand. Only a little, not enough that anyone would notice, but it builds over time. Hourglass sand is notoriously unpredictable in its potency. Much depends on how anxious the glass's owner was, and tricky to use. It is also very difficult to procure. Your workshop is running low on supplies, and if you use the hourglass sand, will become dangerously low. There is another way. You can simply animate each figure, grain of plaster by grain of plaster. It's a tricky kind of animation that responds to the spirit of the art and moves with it. It responds to great artistry to create an image with enough animating spirit. On the cart are bags of ordinary sand and a bucket full of the whitest powder imaginable, slacked lime, which will act as the binding agent, just as it does in mortar. It always strikes you as a kind of magic. Once this stuff was limestone that was heated to make quicklime. When the quicklime is dunked in water, it gives off heat like an oven and creates slacked lime. Now it can build cathedrals or hold pigment and burn skin. As you ready your equipment, the apprentice who brought everything approaches you. It's Maria, a young woman with bright eyes. Will you be needing anything more from me today? If you ask Maria to stay and help, your work here will be easier, but that will eat into the workshop's time and therefore its morale. So, this is difficult. We have a bit of animation, we don't have the artistry. We did up our alchemy, not enough that it probably will pass, but we can use the alchemical method, which requires supplies, and ask the apprentice for help. We can use the alchemical method, which requires supplies but don't need the apprentice to help. We can use our animation or artistry and ask the apprentice to help, or we can use the animation and artistry. Both are strong. We don't need the apprentice to help. Trav has already started the vote with 3. We will take a hit to the workshop morale, but we did boost it earlier on, so it may just end up going back to neutral. I do not know if we have enough animation to pass this check, but we do not have a combined enough animation artistry to do it without the apprentice's help. So, one, two, three, or four. Alchemy with, alchemy without, animation with, animation without. Trav has already started the vote with three. What does the rest of chat think? Yeah, our alchemy is not good either. What do you think, Winter Fairy? Three it is. The threes have it. So we will use either animation or artistry, and we will ask the apprentice for help. The plaster doesn't take long to mix. You ladle in the thick white lime and add water and ordinary sand. You and Maria take the trowels and spread a thin layer in a high, narrow rectangle on one edge of the wall. You'll do the fresco in sections, because the pigment has to be applied to fresh plaster. If all goes well, today you'll complete two sections. The first section will include a player reaching up in vain to catch the ball. You envision the player as lithe and pale, like a graceful pillar on one side of the painting. Andrea is the perfect model. Non magical painters have to wait about a day for the plaster to cure enough that the brushes won't mar it. But that part of the alchemy is quite simple. You wave your hand, say a few words, and the plaster reaches the perfect consistency. You pull out the preliminary sketch you made a few days ago and a second piece of paper coated in charcoal. The charcoal paper goes between the drawing and the plaster. There's a stylus to transfer a faint outline drawing onto the plaster. You'll have a few hours now before it gets too hard to paint. Maria mixes the pigments with water in little porcelain cups and arranges them on the board. This is not quite paint. It looks like colored water. The plaster itself will be the binding agent, alchemy that requires no magic spell. Now for the test. You dip your brush into the brown, into the yellow, into the white, and paint a tiny moth in one corner. You step back and survey the moth. Does it have enough light? Time to try the magic. If you can hold the curing process precisely still while I do the animation, you tell Maria, I'll be able to concentrate more easily. She nods, holds up a hand, invisibly arresting the effects of time on the plaster. You speak to the plaster itself, to the grains now holding the pigment. You pull some just a little towards you and push some a little away. It's difficult. The artistry in your moth isn't quite sufficient, but with Maria's help giving you a little extra time, you can push the animation. You encourage the wing to move, to take up the spirit of there, the wing. Hey, Neurological, welcome in, welcome in. I hope that you can watch for a little while. Glad to have you here. We are making an animated fresco. The moth flutters. It works. You exhale, and besides you, Andrea claps. It doesn't matter how many times I see that, they say. It amazes me every time. You set up an easel to hold a sketch you did of Andrea a week ago. It will help you map the proportions and the overall movement of the section. But it's still good to have the model here with you, for the subtler elements of light and shadow and expression. Watch out for the dragon's blood, Andrea says, referring to one of your favorite pigments. I've noticed that batch is a little uneven. You smile as Andrea takes up their position in front of you. You'll be an artist soon yourself if you're not careful, Andrea. I'm an artist already, they say with a smile. I have to paint myself in my mind's eye, to imagine how I ought to sculpt my body. Like an actor, I have to wear a certain expression. Like a dancer, I have to be able to contort my body into beauty and hide the pain. And like any artist, my work will survive. 500 years hence, people will stare at a painting of me and wonder about my enigmatic smile. You sound very confident. Are you a soothsayer? It's just red paint, Neurological. That's what. Yes, yes, I know. But this is the story, and that is what is said, and I have said my one. For anyone who doesn't know, that is an in-joke. Only the people in my D&D groups know it. Andrea would shrug if they weren't in position. I have little natural talent for seeing the future, and I have a good sense of people's thoughts. Of course, most of that simply comes from being part of the background, of listening while perfectly still. Andrea's knowledge of the workshop is useful because Why is Andrea's knowledge useful? Do we not get as much time as we'd like to talk to our fellow workers? The more we know about the apprentices, the better we can control them. Or I don't want to take any action without first gathering as much information as I can, which in our first run is the decision we made. So, one, two, or three, time, control, or information. You guys tell me one, two, or three, time, control, or information. Winterfell. We just don't get a lot of time to talk to our fellow apprentices. Which is true. We're always very busy. Trav agrees with one. Because we just don't. We want to be friends with them. Really, we do. Well, the ones have it. Even Neurological has weighed in. Awesome. Thank you. And what do you hear in the workshop these days? People are sad about worried about the future, as you'd expect. They all have a great deal of respect for you, as they do for Piero and Fiammetta. Nobody likes the uncertainty about which of you will lead the workshop, and I've noticed some of the apprentices have slowed down in their work, just a little. Thing. Perhaps, or confirmation clients still want their commissions. They certainly do, you think, after painting this panel. You'll go to the planning meeting and see what you can do to assuage the apprentice's fears. Are you beginning now? Andrea asks. If so, I'll shut up. I'm beginning, but you can keep talking. I'll start with your body. Please do, Andrea says with a wink. Andrea hasn't ever flirted with you before, that you've noticed. It's probably just a comradely bit of fun, but it does make you consider your feelings about Andrea. Are we attracted to them? We find them charming and aspire to be. Andrea, because we find them unusual as we aspire to be. Although we find them charming as we aspire to be, we're not attracted to Andrea, or although we find them unusual as we aspire to be, we're not attracted. So we have a charm yes, an eccentric yes, a charm no, or an eccentric no. We have gone all in on eccentric, not charm. 4, unless we decide to juggle Andrea and Fiammetta, which probably isn't a good move, in which case Winter Fairy said 4 as well. We are currently flirting with Fiammetta. I mean, at this point, it's not terrible. But yes. I guess it's going to be 4 then. The 4s have it. Although we find them unusual, as we aspire to be, we're not attracted. You smile politely and can see from their refreshingly direct gaze that Andrea understands that you have no interest. You draw the line of Andrea's thigh. Somehow, you've got to convey a feeling of motion and energy in the figure's legs. So, is the trick to make each stroke with confidence, which we do not have enough skill in? Is the trick in the dexterity of the hand, which we also do not have enough skill in? Or is the trick in the mind, not the hand? The proportions of art are mathematical, which is reason. So, 1, 2, or 3, confidence, dexterity, or reason, of which we do have skill in. Chat, tell me. 1, 2, or 3, confidence, dexterity, or reason. Winter Fairy has started us off with 3. Yeah, Trav, we do not have the dexterity for it. We are a clumsy, unconfident oaf. One, 2, or 3, chat. You tell me. Pretty, please. Oh, I see. Yeah, no. 3, reluctantly, because this will go badly. Well, I don't know. We have a somewhat decent reason. Unless anyone else wants to weigh in. Achievement. Get the good start of the fresco. We've gotten this achievement before. You see the whole, every angle, every curve, the dance between positive and negative space. With the principles of good design in mind, you guide the pigment on, in stripes of browns and yellows, layering it on to represent the color of Andrea's hose, a little darker here, a little lighter there. You fill in the section in a way that seems most inevitable in its harmony, and you finish this part with time to spare, so you'll have time to fill another section of damp plaster, perform the alchemy to cure it just enough, and then paint the outstretched arm of the next player, an arm that also belongs to Andrea. The planning meeting will be starting soon at the workshop, says Andrea. You nod and put down your brush. Only then does Andrea unkink their neck, breathe deep, and stretch every limb. Thank you for your work this morning. I'll meet you there, you say, hastily titling the equipment cart. I have something to do first. And that is the end of chapter 3. So, as with all chapter ends, we will go over our stats. Our health is at 52. Not great, not terrible. The workshop morale did take a hit of a little bit, but we had a little bit to spare, so we're at neutral. We have 2 lira, and the workshop is still running low on supplies. But the fresco is nearly done. Hopefully, it does not get sabotaged this run. Alchemy is almost back to dabbling. Animation is quite a bit higher, and soothsaying is our best skill. We are a bit reasoned, not very artistic, clumsy, unconfident, full of guile and lies, and strunk. Strunk is our thing. We do the strunk. We are adaptable, eccentric, neither bold nor cautious. We have goodwill, we're very humanistic, and we are all about the democracy. For the democracy is our or is how we are today. Piero is fond. Fiammetta is getting there. Andrea is Andrea. Mom is happy with us. Giovanni de Medici, neutral as can be. Niccolo Machiavelli, a bit fond, as is Dangerous. The Monticello, neutral. Neutrals can be. Our bestie, Gulia, slightly unhappy with us right now. Alfonsina Orsini is fond. Henrique of the Congo, also fond. Judah Leon Abravanel, just neutral. Just neutral. But we have a bit of respect from the people, primarily because the fresco is coming along and they enjoy watching it as they looking at it as they pass by. Again, it doesn't get destroyed. Here we are. So, on to chapter 4, the workshop. The noon bells will be in from their work for the weekly meeting at the workshop. This one is more important than any before, though, so you expect most of them will get there early. As one of the 3 potential new masters, this is your chance to improve your reputation in the workshop and make sure morale isn't slipping. First, though, you want to visit the courtyard by the workshop and see if you can't find what's hidden there. As you walk back towards the workshop, you hear strange laughter in a nearby alley. Something's not right about it, and certainly you follow the sound until you find yourself in a dark alley. Too dark. You spin around to find the opening to the street is gone, and you're surrounded by stone walls on all sides. No windows, no doors, not even ivy to help you climb. You call out and bang your fist on the wall where the street used to be, but your voice reverberates. Then another voice behind you. The voice of the Monticello. In the darkest corner of the alley, in the morning light, he takes the form of a mere shadow in the shape of a man wearing a hat. It's just your mind playing tricks, the shadow seems to say in a deep whisper. The light changes and the way is open again. Your heart stops hammering. It's you playing tricks on my mind, you mean? Why? Why me? But the shadow fades like water drying on a wall in the sun. Yeah, that thing is creepy. As you stand there, pondering what to do next, Judah Abravanel comes running up to you. For a middle-aged scholar, he runs quickly. I was passing by and heard shouting, he said. Is everything all right? You nod and swallow in a dry mouth. It's fine, thank you, sir. He shakes his head. I saw something else, a shape on the wall. There are creatures in Venice, shadowy figures. I have many of them there. I would like to learn more about such beings, to help us understand what they want and stop them from doing us harm. Do you know anything that might help me? The Monticello could be listening and won't like you talking about him, but if you tell Abravanel what you know, he'll trust you and respect you. Perhaps you could direct Abravanel to your mother, which won't anger him or please him, but it won't anger the Monticello either. So, The last time we came to this decision, we had Abravanel go to our mother. I don't know if he ever actually did, but that's what we chose. This time, we could tell him, we could keep it to ourselves, or we could once again tell him to go talk to mom. Chat has already decided we should tell him. We already know, in a meta sense, what the Monticello is and what it wants. So I'm going to go with one, and we're just going to piss it off. You step in close to him, but you suspect the Monticello can hear you no matter how quiet you are. I've been seeing a man who appears to be made of shadows, you confide. My mother says he is the Monticello, a being known in Naples, very dangerous. Abravanel nods. Of course, these creatures must be all of a kind. Thank you, I will be watchful. I'll be getting back to my work, you say. Thank you for your concern. If you're sure you're all right, of course, of course. And I look forward to visiting the workshop myself soon and seeing you in action. Perhaps when I collect the pen and ink. The courtyard of the frogs. After you and Abravanel part ways, you take a few minutes uh, first to stop by the courtyard that contains the fountain, the one you suspect might have been the subject of the secret note. You will find the object in the fountain. Leaving the cart of paint supplies near the entrance, you take a few steps inside. The courtyard hardly merits the name. It's more of an alley, really. A cobbled corner behind two brick buildings, just around the corner from the workshop. There's a stone bench along one wall, the seat worn in the middle by who knows how many backsides over who knows how many centuries. In the middle is a round stone basin filled with greenish water and four frogs on the stone lip, one for each cardinal direction. Water trickles out of copper pipes inside their open mouths. It's not much, but it is strangely cool and quiet here in the middle of the hot, busy city. Perhaps some animator put a dampening spell on it years ago. A good place to think. The fountain itself seems straightforward enough. You can see clear to the bottom of the basin. There isn't even a pipe there. This is an animated fountain, and the slight bubbling of the water up into the little pipes that lead to the frog's bottoms is entirely magical. You bend and look all around the basin, but you don't see any inscriptions or markings. Perhaps it's a riddle. Perhaps the note is referring to some other fountain. Or perhaps it's just a bit of nonsense, a prank or a hoax. You have time for one attempt to discover the secret, if a secret there is. If you can find it, that will give you more confidence that you can take the master's place. Best be careful, though. You don't want to do anything that will make you late for the meeting or otherwise damage your reputation in the workshop. Are we deceptive enough of a person that we just have to ask where we'd hide something? Will we cast a soothsaying spell to try to reveal anything hidden? Or will we just think the problem through and figure out why? Guile, soothsaying, or reason? Reason is our lowest stat at this point. Guile, soothsaying, or reason? Trav says guile. We have a twisty mind, although failing this could actually be beneficial. It could be. Guile, soothsaying, or reason? Who else wants to weigh in? I believe soothsaying is our highest, guile is our second highest, reason is our lowest. So Trav has already said one, guile. Winter Fairy says two, soothsaying. Which means you've left it up to me again, chat. I'm going to go with guile. Let's hope that this is good enough to pass, or at the very least helps us. There aren't many hiding places in the courtyard, certainly not big enough to hide even a small object. You inspect the bricks of the walls and try a gentle animation to see whether any are loose, but they're all firmly mortared in place. The best deceptions, as you know well, are the ones that take advantage of the false parameters people create in their minds. In the fountain implies the interior of the basin or the pipes and workings, but it might mean something a little different. If the fountain has a false bottom, for example, you try another animation, turning the circular fountain as though it were a screw. Lo and behold, the thing turns as easily as though it were greased and lifts up into the air, revealing a raised iron lid underneath. "'Bout damn time," croaks a frog. You lift the iron grate up, and there it is, dry and safe, a leather-bound. You've seen it before. caught glimpses of it in Master's hands, under piles of scrolls. It's the Master's personal notebook, where he worked out all his private ideas and designs. It hasn't turned up in the workshop, and no one knew where it was. You found it without too much difficulty. Perhaps you are ready to step into the Master's shoes. Inside the notebook. Once you've replaced the grate and the fountain settles itself back into position, you open the book, holding your breath. You half expect the pages to be empty. But the pages are full of writing, in watery brown ink, in the master's distinctive handwriting. You nearly whoop in victory. It comes as a relief. Perhaps this will help you with the commissions the master so helpfully left as his legacy. Perhaps that's all the Monticello wanted, to help. Perhaps he owed the master a favor. Surely that's a reasonable theory. The notes are not readable. The letters are all jumbled. But this is the kind of cipher with which you're familiar, and given enough time and effort, you can work it out. Piero might even know which ciphers the master used and be able to help you, if you can get the information from him, or if you're willing to show him the book. You close the book again with a thump. For now, you've got to get to the workshop for the meeting. You slip the notebook inside an unassuming burlap sack in the cart full of paint supplies. The meeting. The workshop is, as you predicted, full of buzzing, but the buzz has a strangely subdued quality. It isn't the boisterous jawing of comrades, but a hushed speculation. In a moment, you see why. Piero and Fiammetta are in one corner of the workshop, engaged in close conversation with two people, Lucrezia de Medici and your best friend, Giulia. You didn't know Giulia was working for Lucrezia now, but it doesn't surprise you. Giulia is a particular kind of soothsayer called a civispex, very useful to politicians. She tests the mood of the city, though through a suspiciously ritualistic and individualized spell that no one else understands, not even other civispices. Every time she performs the spell, she can tell their masters or clients certain information, always expressed in ratios. 3/4 of the city prefers having a standing army to relying on mercenaries. 2/5 of the city is wary of Medici rule, that sort of thing. These shifting, diffuse intelligences, and you're not even sure how much faith Giulia has in her accuracy, but she belligerently in any tavern given half an excuse. You secure the cart with the master's notebook, hidden in it in a little room that's magically inaccessible to anyone but you, Fiammetta, and Piero, and the master when he was alive. You make your way through the crowd of apprentices. As you approach Lucrezia, Giulia, Piero, and Fiammetta, they all stop talking and look at you. They all look slightly worried, with the exception of Lucrezia, who looks studiously blank. You know Lucrezia by sight. She was at the Cardinal's party, and she's been a fixture here in Florence for years, even before the Medici men returned from exile. She's worked tirelessly to secure the Medici return, plotting and planning, but she doesn't look triumphant. She's a middle-aged woman with golden hair, a rich red gown, and a shrewd look in her eyes. You bow your head. My lady, I am Principia of Firenze, the third of the master's assistants. Welcome to the workshop. Signora de Medici has come to discuss her commission, Fiammetta says pointedly, her wide eyes telling you she is as alarmed by this as you are. You look at Piero, and he gives you a slight, overwhelmed shrug. I know my request would be a challenge for any workshop, Lucrezia says with a beatific smile. The master had confidence in you, though. I hope the current circumstances will not create delays. Somehow you have to get Lucrezia to tell you what the commission is for. Can you manage this deceit without tipping your hand and giving her a bad impression? You could try flattery, which will test your charm and adaptability. Perhaps if you pretend to be annoyed, that will do it the trick, but it will require you to be bold and grumpy. Or you could impress her with how esoteric and unknowable your work is. But tread cautiously. A little eccentricity goes a long way. Charm, bold, or eccentricity. Chat has already decided on 3, eccentricity. We are the eccentric one. I hope that our eccentricity being so high will cover for the fact that we don't have a lot of caution. So here we go. Eccentricity all the way. These things cannot be rushed, you say. My lady's specifications are exact and demanding, but so are those of the universe. You make a sweeping gesture. Ah, I see, she says. The first seems to have worked, but now you must take care not to overdo it. The moon hasn't been in the right phase for such a difficult task, you intone, and then there are the omens to consider. She looks at you slightly unimpressed. The obvious and easy choice would have been for the purse to generate infinite coins, but I had good reasons for my specifications, as the master understood. I wondered, Fiametta says, picking up on your cues, what your thinking was about it. A purse that generates infinite coins could contain the seeds of its own demise, and my own. If anyone could make infinite money, then money would get less and less valuable until we'd all be drowning in gold like Midas. And long before that happened, someone would kill me to get possession of the purse. An object that's too valuable is not valuable at all. Very wise, Gulia, murmurs Gulia. You can never tell when Gulia is being ironic. Ah, so therefore, Piero prods. I want a purse that can deliver a promised bribe. But there must be a limit on it, you see. That's why I chose 400 florins, but only once for every full moon, so that my allies know that my gifts are limited and precious. But it will only create the florins if the heart of that ally is loyal to me. You nod. A difficult task, to be sure. I'll pay what I promised the master, Lucrezia says. 3 florins due by Michaelmas, you supply, somewhat wearily. Yes! She looks pleased. Oh, and the master knew, of course, that I prefer bright colors, if possible. Nothing too dismal, but I'll take whatever you can give me, so long as it does what I ask. She turns to Fiametta and Piero. Well, with that taken care of, shall we continue that tour? I would greatly love to see that model of the crane that built the cathedral dome. Fiametta nods and smiles and says, Perhaps you can keep Gulia from becoming bored in our absence, Principia? We'll just be a moment. They leave you with Gulia, who smiles weakly. Oh boy. Gulia looks after the departing figure of Lucrezia distractedly. You're working for Lucrezia now? You ask. Yeah, I am. You have a quiet moment now to try and cheer your friend up as you get a sense for what's bothering her. But if you misjudge the situation, you could just annoy her. Do we show Gulia that we are confident the rest of the visit will be fine? We do not have the confidence for that. Will we use our deductive skills to figuring out what's bothering her? We might have the reason to figure that out, which is, I actually think, what we did last time as well, but in this case, I'll let us do it again. Or do we charm a smile out of her, which is not anything we have the charm for. So 2 is probably our best bet. 1, 2, or 3, confidence, reason, or charm. The 2s have it. Very well done, my friends. Let's see. Let's see if we can get this. You look at how Gulia stares at Lucrezia. Their glance doesn't waver, doesn't take in the rest of the workshop or the situation as a whole. Gulia isn't worried about the day's schedule or the purse. You're worried about your new employer, you say softly, and not just about her visit here today. Gulia smiles. I never could hide anything from you, Principia. What is it? What's wrong? Maybe nothing. I don't know. I thought working for Lucrezia would be a wise choice. The more Medici, the better, I thought. Fool that I was. You see, I sometimes work for Alfonsina Orsini, too, and now it seems they both mistrust me because they suspect me of helping the other. But Alfonsina and Lucrezia are sister-in-law. They're on the. It's not as though you were working for the Medici family's enemies back in the days when they were exiled. Not like Machiavelli was, for example, or your mother. They're both Medici, sure, but they have very different ideas about how to keep the Medici in power. Control. People say Cardinal Giovanni will be Pope before long, you see. So Alfonsina wants her son to take power in Florence after Giovanni goes to Rome. And whom does Lucrezia want? Us. Giulia turns her bright smile on you. The people of Florence. Lucrezia believes that democracy is the most stable form of government. As the most powerful family in a republic, the Medici can thrive forever, but as de facto or de jure princes, well, there can always be another prince with another army. I think Lucrezia is right, which is why I'm working for her now. But she doesn't trust me. By trying to work with all the Medici, it seems I've hurt my chances of continuous employment with any of the Medici. And if the Medici do hold power, one way or another, well, there won't be many prospects left for me in Florence. It seems she um she seems to realize she has been talking aloud and turns to you. Never mind all that. Tell me what's happening here. It must be difficult, a lot of uncertainty. Is that your professional acumen as a civispex? Common sense. You smile at her. I'm glad we're friends, you say. You should be, she jokes, with a nod and a wink. You're very lucky to have me. Everyone says so. You scoff, laughing, while trying to keep at least a semblance of professional detachment in front of the apprentices. Lucrezia returns with Piero and Fiammetta. Her servant hands out sweet pastries to the apprentices. This is Florence, says Lucrezia, addressing the whole room. The spirit of Florence is here, in this workshop. The spirit of invention and wonder, of hard work and camaraderie. I commend you all. The apprentices applaud politely. While all this is happening, Fiammetta and asks, Did you make it to the courtyard? Did you find anything there? This is a moment when you could let Piero, Fiammetta, or both of them know that you found the master's work notebook. Do we tell one or both of them? We might want to run the workshop alone, but I do need help now, which is, I believe, what we decided originally. Do we tell one or both of them, but we don't think we'll choose to run the workshop alone? Do we keep it to ourselves because we want to run the workshop alone and we need to be careful with information? Or do we keep it to ourselves because we don't want to run the workshop alone, but we need time to understand the book? One, two, three, or four. Perhaps both help. Perhaps both not alone. Are selfish. Selfish because we're careful, or selfish because we need to understand. Everyone wants to go with two. I don't think we'll choose to run the workshop alone. All right. Whom will we tell? Fiammetta knows about the note, but Piero doesn't. Do we tell Piero, who we actually do have more relationship with? Do we tell Fiammetta, who we want to be in a relationship with? Or do we tell them both? Which is what we did last time. Winter Fairy says both. But at this point, I actually think it might be smarter for our build to just tell Fiammetta and leave Piero out of it. It will up our relationship with Fiammetta, which we desperately need right now. Chat, what do you think? Winter Fairy is flipping to tell Fiammetta, and Trav agrees, and I think that's the smartest play. You nod. I found what seems to be the master's notebook. I'm sure it's his, but it's enciphered. It'll take some time to decode. And time is the one thing we're short on, Fiammetta says. We'll work on it together, you say, glancing at Piero, but he doesn't show any signs he's overheard. Decisions. Lucrezia finishes her speech and walks over to you, smiling. She bids you farewell and sweeps out of the workshop. An expectant hush falls over the apprentices. They've had their time to mourn and take stock of the new situation. Today is about business. What needs to be done? What priorities will you set? And perhaps most important, how will you? Will you, Piero, and Fiammetta work as rivals or together? In addition to the fresco and some smaller projects the workshop has taken on, there are the 5 commissions due by Michaelmas. It is impossible to do them all in that time. You'll have to choose 3, and each of them will require the resources of the entire workshop. So you'll all have to be working on the same commissions. None of the apprentices know about the commissions yet. Piero and Fiammetta know about all of them. They'll have opinions about which the workshop should take on. The safest bets are the projects that align with your particular strengths. Although the great thing about working with others is that there will always be ways to compromise. You must also consider which clients you are willing to disappoint, and if you're honest, which projects you'll enjoy the most. After all, that is what this life is for. What is this life for if you can't love what you do? The master looks somewhat lackadaisical. The master took a somewhat lackadaisical approach to finances. So if you need to pay for anything or borrow money, you'll be putting your own money at risk. But once you get paid, the workshop will pay you back and cover those debts. Every commission pays the workshop 3. That money will go to pay the apprentices and you. For the week's work, you'll earn 3 lira, or 60 soldi for yourself. That is, if the workshop makes any money. Winter Fairy, this is not. We've decided not to do the Piero run. As much as Piero oftentimes aligns better than Fiammetta, we've decided to pursue Fiammetta. So, for all intents and purposes, Piero is probably going to be our rival in Fiammetta. Hopefully, if we can swing it, not be. Don't know yet. Yeah, it's hard to say. It's all a fussiness. So, which project is our top choice? I'm going to take some notes here because last time we didn't and we needed to. So, the weapon, Alfonsina Arsini wants a weapon that will remove soldiers from a castle wall. That will require an emphasis on animation and reasoning. We have both of those. Henrique of the Congo wants a flying machine. Artistry in the design, but also animation. We don't have the artistry. Dangerous Clement wants an impermeable vault, which will require soothsaying and dexterity. We don't have the dexterity. Judah Leon Bravenel wants a pen and ink to write truth and beauty, which will require an emphasis on alchemy and artistry, neither of which we have. Lucrezia de Medici wants a purse that will generate bribes for loyal allies, which will require an emphasis on soothsaying and alchemy, of which we have the soothsaying, but not the alchemy. All right. So, which one is our first top choice? The weapon requires animation and reason. The flying machine requires animation and art. Our artistry is low, but our animation is pretty okay. The vault has soothsaying and dexterity. Our soothsaying is very high. Our dexterity is not great. The pen and ink is alchemy and artistry. We don't really have. I think we need to take the pen and ink off the table. Even though we didn't do it last time, we do not have the skills we need to do it well this time. And the purse requires soothsaying and alchemy, of which we have very high soothsaying and not great alchemy. So, which one is our first choice? I would suggest the weapon. We never did manage to finish the weapon last time. Yeah, no, I agree, Trav, but sadly, this is not what we get the choice of. Um, Winter Fairy says the vault. So Winter Fairy says 1, the weapon, 3, the vault, and 5, the purse, which is literally what we did last time. I actually say that we should, my suggestions are the weapon for sure, the flying machine, and either the vault or the purse, of which we drop one of those if we decide to build the machine. That is my meta. The weapon, the flying machine, and either the vault or the purse. Let's see here. Alchemy is at 48%. Dexterity is at 45. So I guess that would make it the purse. Which one will we do first? Yeah, we will absolutely fail the pen and ink. We will absolutely fail the pen and ink. In our first run, the machine did get built by Fiametta. I do not know if it will get built by her again in this run. I believe it may be whoever you're not being friends with at the time, which currently is Fiametta, so she might end up doing it again, but I don't know. I've not, this is only our second run through. Our first run through was a blind run. I'd never read the story before. So, what is our top choice, chat? 1, 2, 3, or 4? Weapon, flying machine, vault, pen, purse. Weapon, flying, vault, pen, purse. 1, 2, 3, or 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5. My personal recommendation is 1, 2, and 5. All right, our first choice is going to be the weapon. Which project is our second choice? The flying machine, the flying machine, or the vault, or the purse? We're just nixing the pen and ink. We cannot do it. So 2, 3, 4, or 5. Flying, vault, pen, purse. I'm not taking 3. Not taking 4 as an option. Winter Fairy says the machine, the flying machine should be our second choice. Trav says the purse should be our second choice. I'm going to say the flying machine. And as for our third choice, do we do the vault, which is soothsaying and dexterity, or do we do the purse, which is soothsaying and alchemy? Our alchemy is higher than our dexterity by 2%. So I believe the purse is winning for this one. All right. Those are our choices. We've attempted 2 out of the 3 of these before, so the flying machine will be all new content for us. The time has come to decide on the commissions, Piero says. I've been thinking about which ones I'd like. So have I, Fiametta says with possible premature defiance. What are your choices, Principia? Well, we must definitely make the weapon for Alfonsina Orsini, and we should make the flying machine for Henrique of Congo. As for the third, the purse for Lucrezia de Medici seems like an obvious choice. It makes sense to do the weapon, Piero says. And the flying machine, Fiametta says. I sense a but coming, you say. I don't think we should do the purse, Fiametta says. There are so many ways for that one to go wrong. I hate to say it, but I agree, Piero says. If you can't persuade them to see it your way, you'll have to draw cards to determine the third commission. You've all had a chance to think about the possibilities, so it won't be easy to budge Piero and Fiametta from their positions. Are we more stubborn than they are? We won't budge. We are not that stubborn. A little goodwill goes a long way. We have pretty good goodwill. Or will we make a humanist case for the project, of which we have better humanism, I believe. But let's check. This is stubbornness, goodwill, and humanism. Stubbornness. Yeah, we don't have it. We're much more of the adaptability type. Goodwill, we do have that. However, our humanism here. Either these choices are probably okay. So, 1, 2, or 3, stubborn, goodwill, or humanist. Trav says 2. A little goodwill goes a long way. I believe Winter Fairy also says 2. We're actually, and he is happy to fail this to see what happens. All right. A little goodwill goes a long way. We'll attempt with goodwill and see if that ups our goodwill. Listen, you say with a smile. I'm happy to help you both out in any way I can. I know you have the best interests of the workshop at heart. We all do. We all have our strengths and weaknesses. Let me make this choice, and I promise you, you won't regret it. Piero takes a deep breath and smiles. All right, have it your way. Fiametta rolls her eyes. Fine, I'll hold you to that. The commissions you've chosen won't be easy, but at least you've been able to choose the ones you want. We have 3 commissions to complete by Michaelmas, you announced to the apprentices. We will make a weapon of the flying machine and the purse. The apprentices look stunned. One woman near the front raises her hand. That's too much. We don't have time. Do we even have enough supplies to do all that work? You've got to do something or workshop morale will sink. Do we say I'll buy the apprentices? Do we buy the apprentices a few baskets of fruit for 18 soldi? Do we say? Do we show them that we're all in this together? Do they need firm leadership now, or do we lead them in prayer? I believe we went with prayer last time. We do not have the faith for prayer. Firm leadership, I think, is order. We do not have order. In this together, I think, is goodwill, or we can just spend money on them. A lot of money. That's almost a lira. And we only have 2. Winter Fairy says 2. We're all in this together. So, fruit, together, leadership, prayer. Oh, what, buddy? It looks like the 2s have it. We will show them that we're all in this together. That's fair, Winter Fairy. That's fair. Here we go. We know this is a difficult time, you say. You take the hands of Piero and Fiametta. Fiametta seems reluctant, but Piero takes your hand kindly. Best to put up a united front, even though you haven't been cooperating much with Piero. Besides, it makes it faster to hold his hand. I intend to work as many hours as it takes by your sides. We'll get through this together. If you have questions, concerns, problems, bring them to me. I'll listen, because every one of you here is my equal and my comrade. We are about to show Florence what we can do together. The apprentices applaud. Piero and Fiametta gives you approving nods. You've kept the apprentices' spirits up. All right, says Piero, time to get to work. Are the team leaders posted? Asks Luigi, a young locksmith. Fiametta shakes her head. We'll sign them now. We'll do this by chance. There are dozens of new students and assistants running around the workshop, but only 9 main apprentices, divided into teams of 3. They're divided in such a way that their strengths and weaknesses are evenly matched. Team Mandrake. Okay, so this is it looks like we just get a team. So we don't get to choose a team this time because we decided to do it by chance. So we will just end up with a team, and I will note down what team we get. So Team Mandrake. Yes, I'm taking notes. We have Luigi, who is a young dark-haired wit born and raised in Florence to a family that's an offshoot of the Medici. He's always fiddling with locks and keys. So we have Luigi, who is Locksmith. We have Francesca, who is a potion master, with wild hair, half an eyebrow missing, and a deceptively blank expression. A potion master who is also blank. I'm not sure how to describe that in small words, so blank. There's also Angelo, who spends most of his time at the potting wheel, oblivious to the admiring stares of the other apprentices. So Angelo, which is a potter, and a pretty potter. All right. Yes, we need to know what we have. Thank you for the descriptions, Trav. I've just put blank because that's what I had space for. So, Team Mugwort. We have Giacomo, who is can usually be carrying a chisel and covered in marble dust. He's big, quiet, and thoughtful. So he is a sculptor who is strong and thoughtful. Hey, Dragon. Nice to have you in. Welcome. We're learning about the various teams of apprentices that will be helping us. One of them will be ours. We also have Maria, who we have worked with on the fresco. She is a painter. She's also a hard worker and quick wit. So painter, worker, wit. Stefano can build anything large or small. He once built a perfect model of the Duomo out of cherry stems. So he is a builder and an architect. So that is Team Mugwort. And last but not least is Team Moss. Valentina. She is a soothsayer, so you suspect that she knows everyone's secrets, although she's wise enough to keep that to herself. A wise soothsayer. Not that we actually need her. Alina is always inventing new things and talking furiously about them to anyone who will listen. So she's a talkative inventor. And Ignacio, who is more likely to put his ideas down on paper. He's always got a pencil behind his ear. So he is a how would we describe Ignacio? Ignacio is a I'm going to put pencil artist because that makes sense in my brain. I know what that means. Everyone think of a number between 1 and 100, Piero says. We'll do this the usual way. The team with the highest average goes to the leader who thought of the highest number, and the one with the lowest to the lowest, and so on. This is a common bit of soothsaying in the workshop. No one has to say a word for Piero to know what they've chosen. He looks at the faces of the apprentices, looks thoughtful for a moment as he calculates, and then, all right, it is decided. Principia, you will be working with Team Mandrake. So we get Mandrake again. Wow. Not that that's a bad idea. But we get Mandrake again. We know them well. They worked with us last time. We're quite happy with them, actually. um, Luigi, Francesca, and Angelo smile and walk over to you. I'll be glad to be working with you this week, you say. It'll be busy, but we can do it. Francesca tucks her hair behind her ear and looks determined. There's no time to lose. You should get the apprentices started on one of the commissions today. As the week goes on, you can switch between the three projects or focus on one until it's complete. You'll need supplies for all of them. Send some apprentices to check on the spare cash. Angelo returns and reports that it is empty. Another secret for which you can thank the master. You'll have to buy the supplies with your own money or take what you can out of the storeroom or go into debt. So, what shall we start with today? The purse, the weapon, or the flying machine? Remember, we have a Medici locksmith, a potion master who is capable of keeping her emotions off her face, and a pretty potter. The weapon requires animation and reason. The purse requires soothsaying and alchemy, and the flying machine requires animation and artistry. We're all going all in on the weapon. Alfonsina Orsini's finished this time. Alfonsina Orsini wants a weapon that can remove soldiers from castle walls. Remove, not knock off, possibly if the wind is right. Not wound, possibly fatally and possibly not. Remove. You are no soldier, but you do know that blows hit hardest when they come from nearby, when the very foundation under your feet seems less certain than you thought. And you are animators, after all. You don't need to create something that will wreak havoc from afar. You can affect the very stones in the walls under the soldiers' feet. Animation does have its limits. The magician has to be able to see the thing they're animating. And in this case, you need a weapon that will work, that will perform an animation, even if there is no magician at hand. So, what you need is an object, small but sturdy and quick, that can reach an enemy's wall undetected, deliver a delayed animation spell to the stones, and either disappear or return to its wielder. No small task. Any ideas, you ask your team? The brainstorm. We could make a flying device that lands on top of the wall, says Luigi. Like a bird? Francesca asks. Like a dragon, Luigi responds, but not spraying fire. The client asks for the soldiers to be removed, not injured or killed. Removed. It could spray an enchanted powder to affect the stones. Or we could make something that climbs up the walls like a spider, says Francesca, and spins a web to affect the stones. What about not making a device at all? Angelo says thoughtfully. What if we use a catapult to scatter seeds that could grow vines on the walls very quickly? Imagine you're attacking the castle and you use the vines to bump the soldiers off the walls successfully, you say out, thinking out loud. Then you take over the castle, and now there are vines all over the walls. Dead vines, possibly, but vines, and vines can be damaging, a pain to remove. Peeling silk thread off the walls would be a pain too, Francesca says, whereas Luigi's idea, the rain would wash the powder away eventually. True, says Luigi, but both your ideas do have the virtue of being cheaper than mine, I'd think. You grab a bit of chalk and start making calculations on the tabletop. The dragon like device will need iron and leather, and some sort of powder that won't dissolve immediately if it's raining. Iron filings ought to do it. That will cost 18 soldi. The spider will need iron and some silk for the web. 12 soldi ought to do it. The vines will need seeds and wood for the catapult. 8 soldi. But you don't keep seeds in the workshop, so you'll have to spend at least 4 soldi for the vine option. But at least it would diminish your supplies less than the dragon or spider. The storeroom has iron and wood, and whichever one you use, you can trade the other for the leather and bread, but then it's empty. You have 2 lira at the moment. If you can't make up supplies or your own purse, you'll have to go into debt, but the less expensive option might please Alfonsina less. Which style will you choose? Trav says go cheap, the gardening mode. So, will we have it land on the wall like a dragon? Will we have it climb the wall like a spider? Or will we scatter seeds and grow vines? As cheap as possible. 1, 2, or 3? Trav has already said 3 He started the vote with 3. So 1, 2, or 3. Chat, what do we think? Winterfairy also says 3. Anyone else want to weigh in? The 3s have it then. How will you pay for the materials? Will we use the wood in the storeroom and pay 4 soldi for the seeds? Will we use the wood in the storeroom and borrow 4 soldi for the seeds? Will we pay 8 soldi, or will we borrow the 8 soldi? So, do we use supplies and pay for the seeds? Do we use and borrow for the seeds? Do we pay the whole entire cost, or do we borrow the whole entire cost? Remember, we do not have to pay it back until after we get paid for the commission. 1, 2, 3, or 4. Storeroom seeds, storeroom pay, storeroom borrow, pay or borrow. What do we do, chat? You wanted to go gardening mode. 3, this one's cheap. Better to spend the money here than use supplies. We'll need them from a more expensive job. It's true. It is absolutely true. Winter Fairy agrees. We should just pay the 8 soldi outright. Done. Let's go. You send Luigi to the lumberyard and Angelo to a gardener. Soon you'll have everything you need to start building the weapon. Everything, that is, except the design and the magic. It's the end of a long day. As the sun sets, you sneak off to your own room where you can't resist taking a longer look at the master's notebook. By the light of a guttering candle, you whisper a small incantation, a soothsaying spell. When you balance the book on its spine and let it fall open to the page where the master was working last. It's covered in drawings and writing, all jumbled and overlapping. Not only do the words make no sense, but the diagrams seem incomplete and nonsensical too. Across the top of the page is scrawled one word in larger letters than the rest. You hold out your hand, and a small drawer flies open in your chest of drawers, and out floats a bit of rag paper and a simple pencil, graphite wrapped in string. It takes you half an hour, a few spells, and a lot of pacing, but you work out the word at last. The machine. End of chapter 4. So, we have done the work. We have found all 5 of the secret commissions. Technically, all 6 of the secret commissions. We have formed our team, Team Mandrake for the win. We have worked with them before. We like them. We have actually worked on the flying machine, on the weapon with them before. They do good work. We will start off next stream at chapter 5, Shadows and Secrets. So we will end this stream with going over our stats just to go over what we've done. Our health is at a fairly neutral 52%. We're not great health, but we're not in bad shape. The workshop morale is once again slightly over 50%. Maybe we can up that, maybe we can't. We have a lira and 12 soldi at our name, which is actually 30 soldi entirely. The workshop is still running low on supplies. The fresco helpfully has been nearly completed, and hopefully next time we do not have it sabotaged and we can just complete it outright early, which would help us dearly. The machine has not even been begun. We have made progress on Alfonsina Orsini's weapon. Yet to start the flying machine and the magic purse, but we will consider them. Our magic, alchemy is almost in a dabbling stage. Animation is almost in a solid stage, and soothsaying we are the best at. We have a dabbling amount of reason, a dabbling amount of artistry, a not so dabbling amount of dexterity, and a lack of confidence in general, though we are trying. We also have almost solid guile and a definite solid in strength. We are adaptable, very eccentric, neither cautious nor bold. We have plenty of goodwill, We're very humanistic and we're all about democracy. As for our relationships, Piero is almost a solid friend. Fiametta is, well, we're working on it. Andrea is unhappy with us, but not terribly so, and our mother likes us quite a bit. Giovanni de Medici is neutral on us. We've not been able to speak to the beginning. Nicola Velli is slightly fond of us, as is Dangerous Clement, one of our secret clients. The Monticello is unhappy that we've spoken of it to somebody else. Our bestie is now neutral with us once more. We are still besties. Alfonsini Orsini is slightly fond. Lucrezia de Medici is neutral. Henrique of the Congo is slightly fond. And Judah Leon Abravanel is slightly fond. That is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 of the secret commissions. Oh boy. The only respect that we're not reputation that we have that is not utterly neutral is we have the respect of the people, and we will have even more respect when we finish that fresco, which we intend to do. So this is where we stand at the end of chapter 4. Tomorrow we will work on chapter 5. We have not found any new achievements. We've only gotten get a good start on the fresco a second time. So I hope you all will join me tomorrow for chapter 5, Shadows and Secrets. I look forward to seeing all of you again, and I hope you are well for the rest of your day. Let's see, can we raid anyone? Nope, we don't have anyone to raid. I don't have a lot of friends on Twitch. So I hope that we will see you again tomorrow, and take care, everyone. This is the end. Bye.